But there's a long history of factually incorrect statements, especially towards Muslims in Canada, and genuinely, consistently doing what Fox News does in America, or what Breitbart does in America, or what OWN does in America, or what a lot of sometimes the centrist media does in America, and that is to keep everyone deeply, deeply afraid of Muslims. Because as long as you're afraid of the Muslims, you're going to ignore all the real problems of the world, the problems that are actually affecting you on a regular basis, which is typically the alienation everyone experiences under capitalism. But we don't have to talk about that, because we have to talk about the thing that's really, really scary, and that is the Muslims. This story would have international headlines, as in every single one of you, if you're not in Canada, would be hearing about this on repeat, ad nauseum, in America, non-stop, on every major news network. I'm serious. Every major news network would be talking about this if this story had happened to a family of good white Christians. But it didn't. It happened to a bunch of Muslims, and it's a horrifying story. So I'll say a content warning right away, because there are some pretty gruesome details.
Breaking news in what the mayor of London, Ontario is calling an unspeakable act of hatred. Police say a man drove his pickup truck at high speed onto a sidewalk and into a Muslim family who were out for a Sunday evening walk. 4 were killed. A 5th remains in hospital tonight. Let's go live to our Catherine McDonald, who is in London with the latest. Catherine.
Well, Alan, this case is simply terrible and traumatizing. It has sent waves through the town, the city of London, Ontario, through the province, and in fact through the country. If you look behind me, across the street, this busy intersection, that is where a memorial has now begun to grow for these 5 pedestrians, all members of one family, who were standing here last night when police say they were deliberately mowed down by a driver who was acting out of hatred for Muslims. The 20-year-old accused had no prior interaction with this family before, and tonight 4 members of one family are dead, and a child is without his sister, his parents, and his grandma. It was 8:40 last night when a 46-year-old man, his 44-year-old wife, and their family were out for a walk, which he did every night with his 2 children and his mother. The family was standing here at the corner of South Carriage Road and High Park Road, waiting to cross with the light when a black pickup truck mounted the curb, striking all 5 members of this family, killing the couple, the man's 74-year-old mother, the couple's 15-year-old daughter, and injuring their 9-year-old son. The son is the sole survivor. He is now in hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Now, the suspect, who sped off southbound, according to police, without even stopping for a red light, was arrested a short time later, about 7 kilometers away in the parking lot of Cherry Hill Mall. Police say he was wearing a vest that appeared to be like body armor. 20-year-old Nathaniel Veltman is now charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Police confirm that federal authorities are also now involved in this investigation and are looking at whether federal terror charges will also be laid.
During the course of the investigation, we believe that this was an intentional act and that the victims of this horrific incident were targeted. We believe the victims were targeted because of their Islamic faith.
Let me be clear. This was an act of mass murder perpetrated against Muslims, against Londoners, and rooted in unspeakable hatred. The magnitude of such hatred can make one question who we are as a city and who we are as Londoners.
Now, the chief of police says the accused, Nathaniel Veltman, has no prior criminal record. He is from London, according to the chief, but we know little else about this suspect. So many people really distraught about what's happened here. Of course, people trying to find out more about who this accused is. As for the family, they have asked that their names not be released. We were given photos, but we are respecting their request. Coming up at 6, we're going to hear from a number of people who knew this family. They talked about how much they loved going for that evening walk. They came here from Pakistan 14 years ago for a better life. And now so many friends and community members searching for answers as to what happened here.
Word that this family was targeted because of their faith, just simply because of their faith, has just sent shockwaves right through the Canadian Muslim community. Our Erica Vela is in our newsroom tonight with more. Erica.
Alan, people expressing shock and horror. We're hearing from Canadian Muslims and really the broader public about the revelation that was made earlier this afternoon. Police say the family that was struck in London yesterday was allegedly targeted because they were Muslim. Now, the National Council of Canadian Muslims says this is another example of Islamophobia. They're calling this a terror attack and asking it to be treated as such.
Obviously, our response is one of shock and horror. This just keeps happening and it needs to stop.
Oh, thanks, political puppy.
I don't know what else to say. I know that all of us are at a loss for words right now. This has just gone. It just keeps happening and it keeps getting worse. And pretty simply, if this isn't an act of domestic terror, I don't know what is.
Now, we know there have been attacks against Canadian Muslims in the past, most notably the Quebec Mosque shooting in 2017.
So I was going to bring that up. The Quebec Mosque shooting, I don't know if everyone remembers that event. It was obviously one of the largest mass shootings in Canadian history. What was the biggest revelation from that was when he was questioned, the shooter himself said that he thought he was doing the right thing, that he was actually protecting the lives of people around him. He had been watching Ben Shapiro, a lot of Ben Shapiro. He showed the list of the people that he had been watching, and it showed as a breakdown of all the people, Ben Shapiro was number one by a huge margin. The same Ben Shapiro who has those videos on the myth of the radical Muslim minority, the same Ben Shapiro who's constantly fear-mongering, who's pushing out this idea that all Muslims want to murder every single human being on the planet. It's all part of their collective jihad that they're all working on at all times. So his was a really good example of someone getting directly influenced by, I know this nebulous thing that we always talk about, the alt-right pipeline, right? Like, is it real? Is there such a thing, you know? The top performing links by the US pages in the past 24 hours are Ben Shapiro, Sean Hannity, Dan Bongino, Ben Shapiro, Go Awesome Animals, Ben Shapiro, The Daily Caller, Dan Bongino, Sean Hannity, P-Man. Fantastic. I will say something good about this, by the way, that Justin Trudeau immediately labeled this for what it is. This was a terrorist attack. Trudeau condemns London hit and run that left 4 Muslim families members dead. This is not so much like, oh, Justin Trudeau, he's the golden boy again. A lot more that, like, it shows you, like, kind of where the political compass is, even amongst the liberals of this country. So even the liberals of this country are straight up like, yeah, this has to be called for what it is. This is a terrorist attack. Like, by the definition of what a terrorist attack is, this is a clearly racially motivated hatred that is trying to use fear as a way of galvanizing behind a political operation. So that, yes, it is 100% a terrorist attack. You have a soft spot for Trudeau? Yeah, I don't spend the majority of my career ripping on the guy. You know what was funny? I've reused the joke so many times that he's the first black Prime Minister of Canada, but I ended up saying that at some point on the Worst Year Ever podcast yesterday, and I guess none of them had heard it, because whoa, that one landed. And I guess it was because it was in the middle. I was like, so much dark shit that we were talking about, and I was like, I know that, like, you know, Trudeau was seen as this incredibly performatively woke hero, and that we always venerate him for being the first black Prime Minister of Canada, and I guess, like, I was just saying that casually because I've said it so many times, and then all of a sudden they were all like, oh my god. Whoa, Lance, how could you say that? This killing was no accident. This was a terrorist attack, Trudeau said in a speech in the House of Commons. Trudeau said Sunday the attack was not a one-off, citing numerous eruptions of anti-Muslim violence in recent years that have claimed lives. The Quebec City Mosque massacre, the September murder of a man at Rexdale, Ontario Mosque, and multiple less violent but still alarming episodes like the recent harassment of black Muslim women in Edmonton reveal a troubling streak of Islamophobia in Canada. Canada is fucking riddled with this shit. I know y'all think that your neighbors to the north are just kind of like wonderful. Well, I mean, not on this show. If you watch this show, I've hopefully tarnished any single belief and love you've ever had for this country. But I mean, if you're not watching my show on a regular basis, you probably think that, like, Canada is just this loving. It's not even a melting pot. They don't try to, like, squish cultures together, which they almost certainly do. It's more of a mosaic. You know, it's this wonderful kind of like. What is it? Technicolor Dreamcoat. Yes, it's Trudeau and the Technicolor Dreamcoat of all these different marginalized groups together. It's wonderful. And meanwhile, if you look at the history of Canada, I mean, the RCMP is basically the strong arm, the racist police for the colonizing project that has been Canada from its very birth. So No surprise there. This was just sent by a viewer, Butterfly Shrimpo. Hey Lance, the guy who committed the terrorist attack was actually my cousin's son. He grew up in homeschool, was an extremely religious Christian. His parents broke up and then he moved out at 16. He must have fallen into the alt-right pipeline. Me, one of his cousins, is Muslim. Just goes to show how much he actually hated people like me. This is one of the darkest days for Canada. I don't consider this monster as a member of my family. Wow! Butterfly Shrimpo, if you want, you're welcome to come on the show and talk about this. Did not think I would have had a first-hand account. Yeah, if you want, please. Honestly, I'm so incredibly sorry. That's unbelievably tragic. Please don't feel any pressure either. If this is something that obviously it sounds like it's incredibly difficult. That's horrifying. Yeah, I'm so very sorry.
We've heard people mention this.
Solely.
So
wouldn't be the first time.
All of us have gone for walks with our family in this pandemic.
Yes, we're going to talk about Macron getting
There's
slapped.
places that are shut down. So you go for a walk. And to think that a family going for a walk couldn't make it home. To think that that casual walk around the block in our neighborhood would be one last.
This is Jagmeet Singh. He's the leader of the NDP in Canada.
And to think about what that means for a Muslim family right now. People are talking to
Hey,
their families,
Nomiki.
saying, you know what?
Welcome. It was nice hanging out with you, Nomiki, for a very brief period. I got to be back on the Majority Report. That was a lot of fun. Hey, everyone, go to twitch.tv/The Nomiki Show. It's Nomiki _show. And give him a follow back. Welcome in, Raiders. We're just, unfortunately, I wish it was a happier story. We're talking about the recent terrorist attack that just occurred in Canada and how it's not getting international news because, of course, the victims are Muslim. But this is straight up something that would otherwise, I think, like just send shock and terror through everywhere. It was a white radicalized Christian who drove a car through a family, murdering instantly 4 members of the family, including like an old grandma, the dad, the mom, and the daughter. And the only survivor was the 5th member who was struck by the car, but he was a 9-year-old who's currently in the hospital. But he will live, which is, I guess, the only piece of good news from the story. The BBC and the France put out stories. No, that's really good to hear, Instigator. I grew up in a very fundamentalist Christian church, and they taught us that Jewish was in fact pretty yikes. Oof, that is incredibly yikes.
Maybe you shouldn't go for a walk. There are people literally thinking about whether they should walk out their front door in our country. We think about what that means. Some people have said, this is not our Canada. And I think about what that means when people say, this is not our Canada. This happened in London, Ontario. I lived in London, Ontario for 5 years. I loved my time there. I think about the fact that my parents chose to make Canada our home.
I'm a trans lesbian dating a Jewish girl now, so they failed the indoctrination. Well done. Love wins in the end. I guess that's the lesson of that story.
I love my home. I love this place. But the reality is, this is our Canada. This is our Canada. Our Canada is a place where 215 little kids were found dead in unmarked.
And honestly, that's wild. I can't believe you were related to this person. That's like, yeah, I'm genuinely sorry. My heart goes out to you. That's got to be a really hard time for your family.
Graves. Our Canada is a place where you can't walk down the streets if you wear a hijab because you will be killed. This is our Canada. We can't deny it. We can't reject that because it does no one any help. The reality is our Canada is a place of racism, of violence, of genocide of Indigenous people, and our Canada is a place where Muslims aren't safe. They aren't. They aren't safe. Muslims are not safe in this country. And Muslims wonder, I've spoken to people, they wonder, how many more lives will it take? How many more families will be mauled down the street? How many more families will be killed before we do something? Innocent people were killed while praying in a place of prayer, in a masjid, in a mosque in Quebec, gunned down. A man was a Muslim man in Toronto, was knifed and killed. And both of those incidents, we know very clearly that it was directly because of hate. It was because of hate. There was so much hate towards someone that they did not know just because of who they were, because of how they prayed, because of what they looked like. That is a reality. People live with that every day. They walk the streets wondering if I will be attacked just because of the way I look, not because of an enemy that I have, or not because of someone that's got a problem with me, will I be attacked today just because of the way I look? That is a real question people ask. Wow. What a life to live, that you've got to wonder about that. And we think about people.
This is such a good speech. I didn't know it was going to be this strong.
That left violence. They fled persecution. Refugees, they come to this country thinking, I'm going to be safe here. This is a place of safety. And they're not safe. To Muslim Canadians, I'm so sorry that you have to live like this, that you have to live in fear.
Is he a socialist SOCDEM or lib? He is a SOCDEM on paper. I would like to think that he's probably more left-leaning behind the scenes, but at the end of the day, the NDP party is like officially the Labour Party of Canada. So their thing has always been super pro-union, super public health, pushing for like free college education, that kind of stuff. All very SOCDEM-y policies. They're trying to push for a SOCDEM Canada. So that's usually why I align myself with them. They're not lefty enough, but like there's not an actual Socialist Party of Canada that's politically viable in any way. I mean, the good thing is that like for the last, like through the pandemic, Jagmeet Singh was the official minority party alongside of not the official opposition, that was the Conservatives, but they'll never agree with the Liberals. So the Liberals had to work with the NDP to pass legislation, and the NDP was always pushing them and pulling them further to the left. That's the reason you got the UBI-esque program of the CERB in Canada, and that's the reason you got more worker paid leave, and the reason you got people with disabilities getting way more kind of like welfare programs in Canada. Like that all came because the NDP and the SOCDEMs were pulling the Liberals further left. Yeah. They're usually pretty based on these things. Anyways, it's obviously like unbelievably tragic. It's a horrifying event. I'm sure once more information on the killer is revealed, we're gonna find out some things. If you want to know about Islamophobia in Canada media, though, you have but to look to places like the Rebel News. Dear Liberals, Islamophobia is justified. I mean, we could watch some of these. I'm sure they'll be fucking terrible. Rebel News, Canada's Muslim voting guide designed to create an enemies list for Justin Trudeau. More Islamic terrorism in France and more submission from Canada. Thornhill Mosque reluctant to raise Canadian flag. Are they terrorists? Like, this is the kind of shit you see all the time. Antihate.ca, which is a pretty good database for self-explanatory right there. The numerous errors made by Ezra Levant also speak to the question of malice. Although he agreed in a cross-examination that it was important to publish accurate facts, he did little to no fact-checking regarding the posts he complained of either before or after the publication, nor did he accurately report anything that was taking place at the hearing, and with one exception, when he learned that he got the facts wrong, he made no corrections. That seems to be a thing on the right, like not issuing corrections once like new information is presented. But there's a long history of factually incorrect statements, especially towards Muslims in Canada, and genuinely consistently doing what Fox News does in America, or what Breitbart does in America, or what OWN does in America, or what a lot of sometimes the centrist media does in America, and that is to keep everyone deeply, deeply afraid of Muslims. Because as long as you're afraid of the Muslims, you're going to ignore all the real problems of the world, the problems that are actually affecting you on a regular basis, which is typically the alienation everyone experiences under capitalism. But we don't have to talk about that because we have to talk about the thing that's really, really scary, and that is the Muslims. And you have to watch out because they're going to get you. They're, at one point or another, they're going to... And did you know that there's millions already here? Millions here, and they have temples of worship as well? Like, that's a thing. It's real, everybody. And it's real and it's frightening. And even though... doesn't matter where you are in most of the West. In fact, I could say probably universally without having to do too much research on this. Typically, white nationalism, white terrorism is the threat that is the most, let's say, dangerous to the citizens of those countries. If all Canada has done is send us 10 crews, it would be enough to realize they might not be the progressive country. True. Sorry about that. Y'all got 10 crews.
Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Can you do the thing, that thumbs up and comment and all those things that help us out in the algorithm that controls every aspect of our lives? Also, if you happen to have a Facebook account, can you delete it? Like, just delete it. You should probably delete your Facebook account because it's not a great company. But hey, if you can't do that for whatever reason, I understand. And could you also go to facebook.com/thesurftimes then and give us a little like and a follow. We're just trying to push back against the fact that people like Ben Shapiro happen to dominate the platform entirely. And when everyone asks why do older generations believe the things they believe, one of the problems is the majority of them on social media use Facebook. So to counter that, we're just going to be on there too now. Also, if you happen to have a union or a worker co-op or even a leftist project, podcast, website, Zoom, MySpace, it doesn't matter. We will advertise it for free on this channel. All you got to do is go to weareserfs.com and use the forms that we got there, weareserfs.com. Thanks, everybody.
To our God, Xander Corvus, we shall build ornate temples in your honor. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, and the Tim Caucus, we aim to be the best court jesters your money can buy. To our lords, Evan Nudie, Trevor R., Alexander Thaler, Ryan Lubin, Tofox, Jeff Lamb, Sint Forzi, we are your humble vassals, ready to till your land. To our Knights of the Round Table, Omni, Mr. Anderson, Riley and Anna, Ryan Craig, Multimondi, Trevor Janis, Lemmy 101, Anthropophoja, Saren 42, Chronic to Hemphog, The Great Houdini, Bo and Jenny, Catherine, Radical Maniac, Ramon Acosta, Jay Fraser Cartwright, Jimmy Bignuts, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Political Puppy, Andreas Chiringuito, Zach Christensen, Yopi, Josh Mickelson, Todd Buckingham, Todd Lajeunesse, Constance Joyce Lacheris. We raise our glass of mead and we salute you.